This is called The Origin of Satire, for the Proud Boys giggling up front. Dedicated to the artist formerly known as Zumo, now known as Travis the Steel Pickin' Trucker. No H. John, with H. John, Carl with an E, pro-genocide Spencer, and Chief throws his daughter in a dryer, Jason Lester. I used to think, boys, that satire could only be pursued as the result of some genius enterprise, meaning I assume the master satirist conceives of what would have to appear to ordinary dum-dums to be a convoluted, perhaps complex, perhaps hypercomplex, perhaps transfinite, infinitesimal, non-standard, hyperreal, or whatever the fuck number of alternate universes, which are intended to reflect back upon the reference universe, which would be this horrid one that we're trapped in, all of us, right here. And this reflection would at once reveal insightfully the horrible, rotten substructure of, in particular, one's own society, while also convolutedly, perhaps with illuminated manuscripts that are, of course, never in reality illuminated, nor do they ever, of course, illuminate a fucking thing. But regardless, the master satirist would be drawing attention in whatever hyper-complex way to whatever possible better-than-this-shit alternatives might manifest in the prismatic light of the superstructure, metafractal, whatever the fuck, visible to us numbskulls only by gazing upon these most magnificently realized imagined universes and blah, blah, blah. No. You see, if one is in the position that I am in this life, and of course, who else but satirists are in precisely the position I'm in? One need only exhaustedly, but thus relaxedly, describe, accurately, mockingly, one's own life, family, friends, and greater community. And then read it back. And then it's fucking hilarious. And that's satire. And satire is ultimately, in the end, perhaps, the most supreme form of therapy, as it directly converts horror into comedy, which is medicine. It's free medicine, and an endless supply. And I could there, of course, refer to the Buddha's sitting down stand-up routine of smilingly twirling a lotus flower, to call one's inner mind to rapt yet liberatedly blissful focus upon this, but that wouldn't be funny. It wouldn't be funny to read about anything too on the nose. It's not funny to simply point out other humans' inability to understand things, is it? Only a cruel-minded, idiot would do that and then laugh. If you walk into a room full of humans struggling desperately to understand something and failing to, and then just pull a ha-ha, the joke is of course on you, because you're clearly a heartless, broken moron of a person. But if that same room of humans, manifesting that same failure to understand, should, behave as if they are the smartest people on earth, the smartest people ever, in fact, with outrageous arrogance, while perhaps mocking the very people who are trying in earnest to explain that which they do not understand. Now, fellas, that is fucking hilarious. Whatever that movie was, and who cares, where rich idiots find less materially fortunate people with learning disabilities or other eccentricities or delusions, and then bring them to dinner to compete with each other to see who has found the biggest idiot, only to find in the end that, lo and behold, have any of you seen this movie? Because this brings me to you folks, fellas, boys, guys, hearties, buddies, men, non-binary, grown, dying, anybody in there? This will be directed at 5 Proud Boys in particular, and that'd have to be, as in by necessity, Andy, a.k.a. Zumo, a.k.a. Travis the Steel Pickin' Trucker. No H, John, and that's not H for heroin, that's H for just H. H comes included, John, Carl with an E, and Spencer the pro-genocide Zionist. Ye soldiers of fortune, seeking alternatives upon the viney streets, or perhaps whilst navigating the grandest of rapids, interlocking intersectional theory with artistic aspiration, bowing and a-plucking double basses that are in reality but one bass, hilariously, except none of you get the joke. Not yet. Perhaps not ever. Though it doesn't matter, because if you don't, if you continue to refuse to get the joke, to be in on it, as I am and have been inviting you all to be, this, of course, only heightens the expectation of and deepens the impact of this very joke. Where your horribly, profoundly sad inability or unwillingness to wake the fuck up and give a shit, even with the tenderest of invitations, even with the rudest of wake-up calls, this outrageous moral failure that you have all manifested so infuriatingly the entire time, not only that I have known any of you, but of course the entire time that anyone like you people has been on the earth, stepping all over basically everyone who does right now already get the fucking joke. all of you people who are still wondering why I haven't just moved on, why I won't shut the fuck up, which again is the joke, but you don't get it yet. Perhaps never will. This is all fucking hilarious. As satire, meaning what? Meaning I'm pretty sure one or more, if not all of you, are thinking to yourselves if reading this, which again, you most likely are not, because you would have most likely already said to yourself within by now, this is stupid, because Ben is stupid, and moved on, except of course that just leaves for all of us that remain the bounty of this joke to feast upon. Or perhaps one or more of you may be thinking, Ben, shut up. Classic, nice, but which I've of course been told repeatedly from childhood onward by, well, who, in addition to any one of you, except for all the rest of you, and that means all the millions upon millions of you motherfuckers that exist, which any of you would know if you'd been listening to me or anyone, in fact, other than your miserable fucking selves at any point over not just the 20 years that I've known these specific Proud Boy examples that I'm thinking of right now, but of course at any point throughout all of human history. But none of you do you ever actually listen to anyone saying anything actually meaningful, except of course to steal it, to exploit them, to forget where you stole it from, and to then destroy, well, everything in your wake. And that could mean, of course, a literal wake, say that of the jet skis people like you would be riding in the bay of the lake, once looked upon with reverence, respect, humility by exclusively the Anishinaabe. But of course, those days are long gone, and these jet skis are but the stereotypical device upon which you people will crash drunkenly into each other at something called Jobby Nooner, which occurs basically right next to Pekeshwanong, which I have to point out is, and I have to use these words, the words of you people, the only words you understand. Pekeshwanong is an Indian reservation. One none of you know about, despite all being from Michigan, unless you are those of you who are you-know-who, and the chickadee knows who, and that's a joke too, but you don't get it, do you? Of course, no, and that's the joke, incoming, still. Or more to the point, perhaps one or more of you are thinking Ben will eventually just stop or get his internet access denied by being thrown in the mental hospital yet again or kill himself, and that'll be that, meaning fine by all of us, because we don't care about our own children being murdered, avoidably, as a consequence exclusively of our own decisions, so why the fuck would we ever give a shit about some homeless crazy guy, no matter what he is saying, because of course we can rely upon our well-worshipped status hierarchies to reinforce the idea that he is of course crazy, and therefore no one worth listening to, so good. Back to whatever it is, us obviously unremarkable in every way other than that we are absurdly delusional white people who feel entitled to abuse vulnerable others do. Can you see the punchline yet? Regardless, we'll get there. And so forth. Whatever you're thinking, it's, let's face it, but you won't, almost certainly hilariously stupid. Except here's the real joke, Proud Boys. The first of infinitely many parts of it anyway, and that is that this is fucking hilarious. Okay? To not only me, who of course was, before reading this aloud to himself as always, laughing his goddamn ass off at the very idea of writing this, but of course to anyone on Earth with half a fucking brain, which in reality is a lot of people. Are you seeing the joke yet, fellas? Still focused on how annoying I am? Perhaps for being, and this is hilarious, as it is exactly what you, as they say, gaslighting motherfuckers would say, which is that I'm being an entitled white person. In whose eyes? Your eyes? You see the joke yet? You don't. Everyone else on Earth, everyone but, well, who you would, in principle, whether they ever read this or not, would immediately see the joke. And that's fine what I'm pointing out, precisely because it is all obviously and verifiably true. As they, not you, would all know, all immediately, all without having to be told any of this. They, meaning everyone minus you people, would see all of this to be, of course, fucking hilarious. Why? Because in reality, of course, known to me full well and obvious again to anyone with half a brain, you are all some of, if not indeed all of, the stupidest and most immoral white people, which puts your asses directly on top of the heap of the list of the stupidest, most immoral people, yeah, to ever, and I mean ever, walk the fucking earth. Except you don't realize it, and in fact feel still entitled to abuse not only me, but anyone will do. And you people will do this, meaning abuse people without remorse, and in fact feel entitled perhaps for the entirety of your lives to the labor of, well, anyone beneath you in a status hierarchy. And any status hierarchy will do, for the likes of who? Well, again, you people. You, well, stupid and, well, unrepentant and, well, plain old oblivious white motherfuckers. And as I already said, you are all, of course, the only family, friends, and greater community that I've ever known, that I've ever had, and that this universe being, of course, fucked inescapably, not for you, but for, everyone but you, and hilariously also you, except you don't realize that you idiot white motherfuckers are the only family, friends, greater community I will ever know. And that is fucking hilarious. Gold, boys. Sweet, beautiful gold. I've struck gold without exerting any effort. The gold is you, people. I've obtained nothing but further suicidal despair, of course, from the excruciating and ultimately hilarious amounts of effort I've devoted to creativity that was to serve, I thought, as an interim diversion from the horror of existence until I got around to killing myself. Because, of course, unlike, and this is also the joke, all of you, I don't give a fuck, never have, about any status hierarchy whatsoever. I don't want to pass the audition or whatever the fuck. I don't want a PhD, a Grammy, a Pulitzer, a Nobel Prize, a fucking free subway pass. I want out. Out of this horrifyingly absurd existence. Always have. I want to escape. You people. We all do. Everyone that is on Earth and throughout history, except for, of course, all of you. Art for me, up until literally this morning, was nothing but, well, as that asshole Schopenhauer, who, for all I know, being predominantly of German descent myself, might be my relative, my ancestor, right? Yeah, as Schopenhauer once said, art is but a sublimated or whatever the fuck distraction from how irredeemably horrible it is to be alive. In particular, trapped, as I have been, as everyone has been. In fact, of course, the entire world over, trapped. We all are, with... Are you seeing the joke? You're probably not. You people. You, abusive, unremarkable in every way, essentially, if compared to everyone, and that means anyone else, white people. In particular, the white people who are so convinced, as you all are, that you yourselves are the carriers of the flame, as it were. Which, again, to everyone else but you, is fucking hilarious. If Stanley Crouch ever reads this, my God. I'm homeless, by the way, Stanley, if you're reading. And you're not. Why would you be reading the ravings of a white homeless person? But I have to point out that it's not for lack of my trying to live within, well, a home. That would be great, sure, but I'm talking even a tent, man. Like in the woods, like I'm a hermit, or would be right the fuck now, if it wasn't illegal. Due to who? Well, due to you-know-who. It's, of course, all of you, people. By being homeless, and indeed 650,000 people being homeless right now, and what you people insist that we must call the United States of America is due to you idiot white motherfuckers who, last I checked, controlled... Is it the world? It's the world at this point. I thought as a child that if I ran and ran far, I would one day escape. All of you. But I had to learn, as so many before me, that there is, of course, at this point, nowhere to run from all of you idiot motherfuckers, except, of course, if you count, and only you morons would, Mars. The desert planet. That is fucking hilarious. You people, in addition to everything else, think you're Martians. Frank Herbert, if he could only roll in a grave, my God. Hilarious. But you see, this joke, it unfolds infinitely. The idea of anyone, especially anyone reading this, thinking, Ben, just stop. When, of course, I won't, because, of course, this is fun. That idea, right there, is fucking hilarious. The central insight, the punchline of this joke, extends to and sheds hilarious light upon my every experience thus far in life, and no doubt will continue to for the foreseeable, because when, after all, will this earth have relief from the likes of, again, specifically you people, the people who don't understand that it is precisely you making this as precisely horrifying as it is, precisely because you don't get the joke that I'm right now in the process of making, and I mean making it ongoingly for as long as I live. You see, again, you are all, you, the people who I've been trapped with, undoubtedly some of the stupidest and most deceitfully abusive white motherfuckers who have ever walked the face of the earth. And again, you don't see that, of course, which again is fucking hilarious. To me, to everyone else but you. I hasten to emphasize again that by you, I don't mean any specific one of you, nor do I ultimately mean but a handful of people. Like you know, there are, of course, again, precisely because of how comparatively unremarkable all of you people are, to everyone else, a shit ton of you. You are, and I think I speak for everyone else here, everywhere, and I mean everywhere. As in, of course, an infestation, an invasive species, which, I know, everyone else, your guts are busting, but bear with me. An invasive species, which is, of course, only additionally hilarious because of the obsession that you people insist on having with the supposed illegality of everyone but you, claiming any right whatsoever to exist on, is it the face of the earth? It's the face of the earth. Which you people have covered like an affliction, a terminal, heinous affliction, of course, but still this, in the grand scheme of things, presents the bonus silver lining of being fucking hilarious. This joke will never end, you see. I will never stop doing this bit. What is the bit? Making art out of you people in desperation. Stop? Why would I? It's fucking hilarious. It makes me feel better. It makes everyone feel better. Everyone with half a brain around the world and throughout all of history. Everyone, of course. But you people, who, even as I write this, are predictably most probably feeling, I don't know, whatever the fuck you people feel. Other than, I don't know, remorse, inspiration, insight, humility, love, reverence for that which fosters, I don't know, human life and stuff. J.D. Vance, as I write this, could well become president. That anyone is worried about Trump proves they don't understand how much worse it would be to be led by J.D. Vance as a society, except the joke is, we already are led and have been led by not only J.D. Vance, but people worse than J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance wrote a book that was supposed to be, that could have easily been him telling the joke that I'm in the process of telling, but no. Why did he not tell the joke? Because to point out the stupidity of your family, friends, and greater community in a way that is therapeutically satirical requires you to love them. It requires you to understand that you are not better than them. It requires you to not hide behind, well, anything, like clothes, least of all so-called Ivy League degrees, or military status, or wealth, or power. Satire, and I'm going to be serious here for a second, satire is not an act of malevolence, of violence. It is an act of love, but love expressed in desperation, in desperate circumstances. Okay? Let's get back to telling the joke. The joke doesn't need to be told in reality, not like any knock-knock. We know who's there. It's who? It's you. The joke goes on, remains the same. For example, having pointed out to you Proud Boys, like directly, like just now, like as directly as possible, repeatedly, nauseatingly as always at first, and standing inevitably not upon the shoulders of giants, but again right next to anyone with half a fucking brain who has ever been trapped on the hell ship here with you people repeatedly for, and here's the joke again, my entire fucking life, as have the greatest human beings of every generation, for again, the joke, all of human history, which again, you hilariously think means people like, I don't know, you. A bunch of fucking oblivious white people, but no, of course, I'm referring to the Anishinaabe, whose shoulders you have been standing upon only to murder them, and first take and enjoy, but ultimately destroy all of their resources. But hilariously, you don't know the word Anishinaabe, do you? And you're all, my family, friends, and greater community anyway, from Michigan, aren't you? And again, that's fucking hilarious. You, Leibniz, me, Voltaire, this is a fucking joke. The joke. Like an at first foul but then beautiful river, a river that in all likelihood you people would destroy if it were literal. Oh, the joke goes on, flows, ever onward unto the unknowing that awaits us all. Again, for example, having pointed out my gold mine to all of you, do I need worry that my mine will be depleted? That any of you will beat me to the mining project? No, of course not. Why? Because of course none of you can be bothered, not ever, to give a shit, can you? About what? About, well, is it anything? It's anything, isn't it? And you haven't, ever, not for, again, the entirety of my life, given an actual shit about anything. But also, of course, again, for the entirety of human history, which is, again, of course, fucking hilarious. You are all convinced, as you always have been, and this is, of course, still the joke, that you have, wait for it, responsibilities, obligations, no time for any of this. And indeed, perhaps most hilariously of all, better, and perhaps even grown-up, things to do. Things which, of course, when you boil them all down like maple syrup, which, of course, generally in, say, Michigan can be harvested directly from maple trees only by the likes of, you guessed it, you people, because the near entirety of Michigan is occupied, of course, yep, by you people, ever since, again, you people fucking showed up here around something like 1612, according to William Warren, who, of course, none of you people know about, and who hilariously is ultimately basically still just one of you people. as I myself, having been shot out of the testicles and into the womb of, with no consent of mine, mind you, you people, I thus would, of course, also be just like you, except that, again, I get this joke. And do you? Yeah, all these things that you idiot white motherfuckers claim are supposedly such important obligations, responsibilities, and the like are in reality, when analyzed by anyone but, again, you people, these activities are revealed to be, insane. Ultimately, just further forms of abuse. Ultimately, just straight up you abusing other innocent humans or non-humans to distract yourself from your own miserable cowardice and the consequences of your own idiotically destructive behavior, which is, of course, again, fucking hilarious. You will all, presumably, say that this is exactly what I am doing in writing this. I will say you are gaslighting. You will respond that I am gaslighting. We will descend into playground I know you are, but what am I nonsense? Like old Slick Willie saying it depends on what your definition of is, all of which is, again, hilarious. You are presumably, right now, saying things like, I don't have time for this shit. You don't? That's hilarious. I have to take my daughter to school. Would that be the schools where the teachers, as they're called, beat you to death for speaking your own language? Or are these, let me guess, the schools where your obviously and previously homicidally insane classmates who cried out desperately for help but were denied that repeatedly by, again, who, all of you, only to, because, of course, all of you people are in control of both the government and the schools, because, of course, they are the same thing, as is obvious to everyone but, again, you people. Would these be those schools where such obviously homicidally insane children, who are themselves being constantly abused by who, yep, all of you, these children are allowed to murder their fellow classmates, who are, let's face it, but you won't, will you, their fellow inmates? Are you people by any chance saying you're about to drop off yours in property as enslaved children at those schools? Where there is this obviously increasing likelihood of them being murdered without anyone but you being held accountable, which is of course fine, but of course nowhere near an adequate amount of responsibility taken by any of you, those schools, where all you have to do to avoid this, and by this I mean again, your children being murdered, all you have to do is resist the idiotic commands of course, the government, which as a decision, of course, for anyone who actually loves children, is very easy to discern. Which is to say, this is very easy to do, because love in reality is, of course, courageous. But, of course, none of you are that kind of person, because you are all, well, again, the most hate-consumed, entitlement-presupposing, destructive, white idiot motherfuckers to ever walk the face of the earth, that you, again, are right now in the process of ruining to the point of global extinction, and in the least optimal, most horrifying, most suffering, worsening of ways, all of which, taken together, is, again, fucking hilarious. I have to make it to the country western gig on time. Why? Because I have to get paid. Why? Because I have to pay my rent. Why? Because I live in New York City. Why? Why would anyone, at this point, post-2020 AD, year of our Lord, live in New York City voluntarily to play and thereby sustain the tradition of, country western music? Except, of course, to worship blindly at the altars of status hierarchies, which, of course, is exactly what the fuck all of you, and of course this means all of you white motherfuckers are doing there. Is it 1957? No, it's 2024. Again, hilarious. But I have to teach a class. On what? Double bass technique. Hilarious. Why? Because, of course, who is perhaps Michigan's own leading expert on so-called double bass technique? Well, it would have to be, or at least perhaps is, likely the person who has focused most exclusively, most obsessively on exactly that his entire life, without ever once looking in the mirror to say something like, I don't know, oh shit, I'm a wealthy, white, pro-genocidal Zionist expert on double bass technique who can't be bothered with child victims of horrifying atrocities because, well, I'm a fucking idiot. And that would be that guy Spencer that I referred to somewhere above, only to bring up the issue of my mother having been raped at the school she helped him get into, which I got a full scholarship to, honestly, only so that I could perhaps find my way into whatever locked from the inside room could be filled exclusively with me and, of course, the man who raped my mother. So that I could, and I have to explain this to all of you people because you're cowards who don't understand that this is just what the fuck you do when you confront your mother's rapist in a closed room, which is, of course, that you kill the goddamn motherfucker with your bare hands. Duh. who, again, all of you who went to this absurd school, which is, of course, like all of you that I was originally thinking of here, more or less, except that this joke balloons outwardly and hugely because there are, again, in reality, millions of you motherfuckers. All of you such people may well think that this very rapist in question is, in fact, an awesome guy. Hilariously. Except that, hilariously, my mother, learning of my full scholarship and being too mentally broken still from all manner of abuse, but in particular that which she endured at this stupid fucking school, she again spat on me, would not allow me to go to this school that, in case I couldn't find and kill her rapist, would allow me to at least escape her and the public school that she was a teacher at, and also her and the rest of the family, friends, and greater community, except that, of course, now she was able to not allow me to leave because, of course, I was her property, legally. As are all of your children your property now, all of which, again, is fucking hilarious. Because the joke goes on and on, doesn't it? What other crucially important things do you people who have better things to do have to do? Well, I have to... Oh boy, this one's heavy. I have to grab my trucker cap, perhaps for inspiration, despite my never having driven a truck, of course, that I might find it within myself to finish my pedal steel guitar transcriptions, right before I enjoy whatever the most recent Bob Dylan album is, which nobody but people like me, of course, would know about, let alone care about, let alone make time in their day for, time that could, of course, be better put to use by, say, pulling my head out of my fucking ass for, I don't know, a fucking second. Hilarious. Please, wake up, all of you, if only to give my sides and all of our sides a break from splitting, and splitting hard. Because, of course, again, known to all of us, but not to you, this is very obviously hilarious. And here's the real kicker. But, of course, in reality, the kickers keep coming. The kicking doesn't stop. Not until we're all dead. Beat a dead horse? Yeah, as long as you keep torturing and murdering living children in a desperate attempt to get your attention, I'll keep beating a dead horse. Yeah, sure, it's dead. It doesn't matter. Proud Boys. That'd be Andy. Goes by Zumo, goes by, well, wait for it, Travis, as in Travis the Steel Pickin' Trucker. Carl, no H. John. H. pre-installed John. And, of course, the morally speaking worst of you motherfuckers by far, who is, of course, not the person the people I just mentioned probably assume I'm going to or should name here. No, I'm talking about the by far most vile, yet the most advanced priest at the altar of status hierarchy, at which you all apparently, despite all of my and all of everyone's attempts to call you away from it, remain passionately devoted to, and who is thus not to me but to you, essentially, logically, the best among you. And that would have to be the pro-genocide Spencer. Spencer, not Lester. You see, you don't. Hilarious. Here's the kicker. None of you will harvest the sweet, sweet gold of this wondrous depository that I have, loving you all as I do, pointed out. Or so you've told me, repeatedly, as long as I've known any and all of you. And that's cool. But you know who would have, in theory? And who did, in his own peculiar way, harvest this gold, if only but a few nuggets here and there? Want another nugget? Hey, want another nugget? Well, then get those want another nugget snakes off my want another nugget plane before we crash into the Opti barn and take advantage of the buy one, get one pair glasses, one pair fruit, each stronger in a catfish jaw. What am I getting at, I'm asking? Who in our pathetic little circle of white people artists is actually, a creative artist? Well, there are two of us. One is, of course, me, because, of course, I'm the crazy homeless person writing this, which is hilarious. But the other, of course, obvious to me, not to you, despite all of you having been the people who introduced this person to me, for the very reason, hilariously, that he, too, is, weirdly preoccupied with creativity as therapy and not obtainment of status in society. The other creative person in our absurd little group, which is a family, but you don't see that, hilariously, that person is Jason Lester. For anyone who may be listening out there, who also listened to my previous satirical rants, I should emphasize hilariously that Jason Lester is, at this point tragically, the very psychopathic monster child abuser and abuser of adult women that I have been trying to get these very idiots, and that's Zumo, or Travis the Steel Pickin' Trucker, no H. John, H included John, Carl, and pro-genocide Spencer. This is the very person I've been trying to get these people to pay attention to, meaningfully, supportively, rationally, but to, of course, hilariously no avail. As these same people, all of them, think that Jason Lester is, as white people say, and as only white people would say, trash. And that I am, of course, an arrogant idiot. This is whatever that movie was called. It's like Dinner for Morons or Dinner for Dummies or whatever. Who fucking cares? The point of the movie is that when the stupidest of people behave as though they are the greatest of people, only to mock people who are simply, unique or, interesting or, sincere, vulnerable, honest, loving, creative, and so forth, while this is at first disgustingly upsetting and heartbreakingly sad, it is also when the big reveal occurs, when the fact that you all brought me and Jason Lester to dinner to laugh at, not with. As audiences everywhere already know, this is fucking hilarious. Jason Lester needs, as he has always needed, help. You fucking morons. He has been crying out for, you guessed it, help. And for how long? You guessed it, of course, his whole fucking life. Only to be told, of course, that he is a disease. That he is lazy, and he, of course, is anything but that, as would be obvious to anyone but right, a moron. I've been repeatedly told by Jason Lester over the years that I am hilariously the only person in his world willing to affirm his creativity for what it truly is, namely actually interesting and even original, as opposed to parasitically derivative bullshit. But the really at first soul-crushing but ultimately hilarious thing about that is I'm also at the same time, evidently, the only person in his world willing to explain in no uncertain terms that one should not be putting one's disabled child daughter into a dryer in order that she may be terrified and understand once and for all that she is helpless and that adults all around her are invincible monsters. Hilarious. It will be assumed, of course, by the artist formerly known as Zuma, but who goes again now by Travis the Steel Pickin' Trucker, that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That what I just said is ignorant. Perhaps because he has devoted so much time and effort to reaching out to help, as he would call it, Jason Lester. Except that, of course, hilariously, what he, formerly Zumo, presently Travis the Steel Pickin' Trucker, what he means by help here would be like, for example, selling Jason Lester mushrooms and then laughing, and then pouring Jason Lester bourbon and then laughing, and then assuring the adult woman victims of Jason Lester's harassment that something will be done, and that something, of course, is that I guess Andy will, well, be there for them. In what capacity, though? It would seem jerking off while thinking about them as the support he has in mind. I know, hilarious. But don't worry. He will then tell Jason Lester that he needs to get a job. Like everybody else. 'Cause that'll fix him right up. He'll then laugh when Jason Lester blows a literal conch shell solo in public, as obvious and as traditional a cry for help as there could be. And all of this, obviously to anyone the world over with half a fucking brain, is, you guessed it again, hilarious. More hilariously still, the cure, as it were, for the disease that Jason Lester is, according to, again, the person who hilariously thinks I'm an arrogant idiot for saying any of this, the cure, when examined rationally, would have to be that as a friend circle, I know, hilarious, as a friend circle, and also as a society in general, we will cure this disease by forcing Jason Lester to go so psychotically insane that he at last commits whatever the fuck crime matters more than what he's already done, to the, of course, completely itself psychotic so-called legal system within which all of us are slaves, so that he is at last sent to prison, where he will, of course, if you've studied the statistics, as I have, being the arrogant idiot I am, but of course none of you study statistics, do you? That's for dummies, hilarious. But sans statistics, you might say already know people in your data mining projects, otherwise known as lives, to whom this has already happened, as I do, in spite of my ignorance. Or if think for, a fucking second about it. He's going to kill himself in prison, you morons. And society, and that includes this so-called friend circle, will congratulate itself for having, cured the disease. Hilarious. To whatever extent that there will be such a thing as the annals of history, the very annals you have had, all of you, your empty heads stuck up so far and for so long that you may as well have shitty giraffe necks. And to whatever extent anyone reads this and understands how fucking hilarious this is, and then sends it to someone else, if only to say, read this is hilarious. Leading to what I'm writing now somehow being preserved in the annals of history, you will all go down in the very annals that your heads are stuck up as, again, some of the stupidest white motherfuckers to ever walk the earth, and that is, again, hilarious. Therapy. Proud Boys. It could work. Wake up. Please, you fucking morons. Or don't, and remain hilarious. Her name is Sparrow. Morphine lady, whip on up a deuce for me. Ooh. And then put that in my mouth or my veins. And then you'll be done with me and me, you, and everything too. And that's just fine by me. So morphine lady, whip on up a deuce tonight. Morphine lady, whip on up a lethal dose now for me. And then put that in my mouth or my veins. And then you'll be done with me and me, you, and everything too. And that'd be fine by me. So morphine lady, whip on up a deuce tonight. Shabow! Poof! Pow! Pow! Pow!